post-conventional ethics is hell. Like, it's just straight up hell. Like, the belief that man is naturally upright is a man who's never been tortured. Like, or the belief that like men are naturally ethical has no basis in reality whatsoever. Like, if you look at kids, they have mirror neurons, they have empathy and shit like that, and they feel sympathy for other people and pity and stuff like that, as kids do. But the reality is that the superego is what keeps them in line. The superego is what fucking keeps them in line, and that superego is authoritarian, it's abusive, or it lacks solidity, like borderline kids and shit. Like, anyways, like, post-conventional ethics, where you start to really be distanced from your cultural upbringing, what your parents taught you, and everything else like that. When you really break away from conventional ethics. So there's pre-conventional, which is like operant conditioning, like how you raise kids until they're like the age of 6 and like what you do is, when they do bad things, you punish them. When they do good things, you reward them. And like, it's operant conditioning. It's just behavioral science. It's like psychology, you know. Like, you punish the behavior you don't want, you reward the behavior you do want. And over time, it conditions them. And like, they don't have linguistic or like verbal skills yet. Some of them can do sign language, but like, they can't do logical analysis. You can't explain to them why something's wrong. And you can do it to their subconscious mind and hope it catches like later in life. But like, the reality is that they don't comprehend until a certain age, and then you have to switch from that to like conventional ethics or whatever, where you teach them the social contract that like everyone behaves in a certain way because everyone has decided this is how we behave. It's a herd mentality, it's cliques, and it's like social groups, in-group, out-group, basic sociological structures. And that's the majority of what man is. Like, you can see that right now with the feminist debates, or the feminist patriarchal belief system, whatever you want to call it, the abortion shit in America. Like, you have a strong community of women who are for it, a slightly smaller 1/3 who are against it, and then you have this huge community around them which don't really think about the topic ever. Like, you know, like, it's not like all these male chauvinistic supportive of the feminist male like jerks who are now targeting women with approval of the majority of women who are on the side that are opposite of this group being targeted by men, which is just complete stupidity. Like, that's the antithesis of what feminism is against. Like, the idea that like a group of men who didn't think about abortion ever are now going to be super loud and supportive of it. That's conventional ethics. It's the belief that the herd is doing something, so you have to go gung-ho into it, and like, it's silly to me. It's humorous. Like, so you have pre-conventional, and like, I think pre-conventional bleeds into post-conventional, because like, there's social pressure, social reward, you know, like, half the men who are now targeting women who are Christian pro-lifers or non-Christian pro-lifers, they exist. They're a part of that community. The 1/3 of women who agree with the abortion laws now. Like, these men who are targeting them, just ruthlessly targeting them on social media and calling them idiots, like, you know, like, with the support of a percentage of the pro-choice women who are assured that it's only male chauvinistic pigs who are part of the patriarchal, like, Christian hierarchy that are demanding they forcibly carry babies or fetuses to become babies or whatever, which I'm not going to say my opinion on it. One, I've explained this already, but two, it's irrelevant to what I'm actually trying to talk about. It was just an example that is relevant to our current times. But see, these men who are like all of a sudden super like, oh yeah, like pro-choice and pro-life, that's meant a lot to me throughout my life. Like, I've constantly dwell on the subject and debate the morality and ethics of it. And I was thinking about it long before it suddenly flashed into my newsfeed, like the Johnny Depp trials, or the Ukraine war, or the weapons in Iraq, which, you know, it's whatever. But I find my jokes really funny, and it's like an operant conditioning to get me to keep talking about my subjects and things like that, because it's like witticisms that I find are humorous and like ironic things that I notice. And I guess it's like, anyway, segueing, non sequitur, digression to segue into nothing. So or not digression, regression. I don't know, man. Anyways, I'm losing my train of thought. Conventional ethics is easy. Like, it's super fucking easy. You may be forced with morality choices, and like you may have to like come up against these various belief systems and shit. But the reality is that if you go with the mob approves of it. Like, those who are not for us are against us. You know, like the logic of Jesus. And so like early Christians were solid. Like in early Christianity, if you professed your faith, they would torture you to death in like a stadium. And like, if you professed your faith, you'd be literally fed to lions or crucified or like tortured. And like, that was the start of the Christian faith. It wasn't exactly a patriarch hierarchy thing, you know, like that came a lot later. But and then time progressed. These radical first generation Christians endured all the suffering. People watched it and said, wow. As one of the Christian people I was in a Bible study with once, I'm not in the Bible study anymore and I'm not a Christian anymore, but he said that's something real to people. Like, if you watch someone get tortured and they're not doing anything but others, like, they're not shying away from being tortured because they love the religion so much and the teachings of it and whatnot, like, that seems real to people. And like, anyways, now modern Christianity, it's almost in some locations against ethics to be against Christianity, and it's the same in other locations but reversed. It's against ethics to be for Christianity. And somehow the secular split got caught up in our political system. Like, you have Billy Graham and the religious right, evangelicals and stuff like that, trying to force the laws of the land to conform to Christian narrations. But then you also have the opposite of that. Like, you have secular belief systems which are idiotic, led by geniuses like Neil deGrasse and like Richard Dawkins, who they're militant atheists who are abusive towards other religions. And atheism, once you become militant and you start preaching it, it's a religion. It is. Like, but the reality is that now in certain areas of the nation, going with Christianity is conventional ethics. Going against Christianity is conventional ethics, which means there's a community of people that will shun you if you go against the ethical belief system. They won't just shun you in this modern culture, though. It's like a cancel crucifixion culture, where like you say, you know, like Andrew, the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. Anyway, I can't remember who his brother is, this news anchor versus him. But anyways, if you Google so this dude got like attacked by he wrote a book, got a bunch of people killed in a nursing home. That's not what I'm talking about. He got caught, or was told, was accused of kissing women against their will. Or like parties and weddings and shit like that. But if you Google him kissing men, there are more pictures of him kissing men at parties than there are women, and he's not gay. Like, no one thought anything about this, because if you went against the narrative, you were suddenly against the Me Too movement. And like, sorry, my eye wanders because I ripped it. I ripped the muscles in it once, so it wanders a whole bunch. Anyways, so like, this governor dude is just being ruthlessly targeted by the Me Too movement, and like, you can't go against that, because it's like what are you, pro rape? Like, are you pro like anti female whatever? And you know, and like, I guess the point is that Me Too is, and like Black Lives Matter, pro-abortion in some locations, pro-choice in other locations in our country. This is all conventional ethics. Like, it's what the social contract has determined us all to believe as our ethics. And it's super easy to have these ethics. You can get enraged about it, you can get furious about it, and like at times it may require you to do things that you don't enjoy, like sacrifices and stuff like that. But the mob and your society thanks you for it, or they will hurt you if you don't do it. Conventional ethics. And so like, I was conventional ethics. I thought I was post-conventional. I thought, oh, I'm so counterculture. I'm so whatever. And like, the reality is that I was always conventional ethics growing up. I adhered to the ethical standards of the mob for the most part, I think. And like, everyone does in our society. It's a mob democracy. It's a mobocracy. And like, the cancel culture is evidence of that. Like, no one can hold in their minds this belief that we're not in a black and white reality. Like, so like, are you a Democrat? Fuck you, because I'm a Republican, or vice versa. And like, it's stupid. It's simplistic thinking. I think like it really tries to say like that everything isn't black and white. Or sorry, it tries to say that everything is black and white. In reality, I do it like this. You have good and evil. Evil is black ethics, not to refer to anything racial, just black in the sense of like a black mask, like a black ritual or black magic. You know, the term black is used to reference evil or darkness. Not darkness and evil are not the same thing. But so you have black ethics, which is like the realm of evil, which I define as things that should never be done anywhere by anyone at any time. And those things do exist. Like, I think they do exist. And, like, I think that even if you're nihilistic, amoralistic, or whatever, like, there's still things that you should not do. Anarchists, there's things they should not do. And, like, I think there's a lot of it's biologically programmed into us. A lot of it's nurture and nature. And, like, this debate about evil will continue on forever. Like, this debate is never going to end. It can't end. Like, it's an infinite debate between good and evil about what is good, what is evil. But there's things that we just know are evil, like abusing kids, like abusing people, like, I don't know, man. Like, anyways, then you'd have to get into the question, like, well, what is child abuse? Like, you know, like if a mother swaddles, and the term means like to lightly smack a kid who's like about to touch a stove, that's not abuse, even though you hit your kid. And like, there's levels of like I personally think that teaching kids about hell in a lot of regards is a form of child abuse. And like, but in the same regard, I think that teaching kids hell and then teaching them the ability to overcome the fear will leave them with the courage that lasts a lifetime. Like, literally, like once you learn about hell, you really intellectualize it and you go, holy shit, that's terrifying. But then you learn to not suppress it, but learn to accept the reality that, like, no one knows who God is. No one knows who God, like, who the prophets are. No one knows who the messiahs are, if there are even messiahs. No one knows if hell exists. No one knows what it'll be like, or, like, we all assume we know. We have the faith that we know. We have anecdotal evidence, which can be easily deceptions. Like, no one truly knows any of this. And so I think you should teach your kids about heaven and hell without saying, and you'll go there if you do this. Because you don't fucking know. It's your own faith being projected through them, through you onto them. And your faith, when you project it onto someone else and force them to conform to it, is a gamble with their lives and soul. Like, you can't preach a religion that requires submission and salvation, shit like that, unless you know for sure you've met God, talked to him, and somehow beat the unknown, and like, otherwise you're gambling with their souls. Like, that's all the faith spreaders do, is gamble with other people's souls to please their God who they've become enslaved to. And like, it's a Stockholm syndrome. It's an abusive dad, or it's an abusive father, an abusive husband, you know, like an abusive leader who, like, will burn you in fire forever if you try to go against it, but he loves you, as George Carlin jokes. And like, that's Stockholm syndrome. Like, he made you feel horrible guilt for whatever reason, and he said he would save you, and then if you ever loved him, he would send you to hell. that's Stockholm syndrome in an abusive family relationship or an abusive relationship. That's domestic abuse, but on like the cosmic scale. But it's neither here nor there. So, tracing back, teaching kids hell. I think teaching them about hell and heaven without saying anything else about it, like, and then teaching them the tools to overcome the fear of it, and really like without pride or without a sense of like mindless rebellion, teach them to use that same skills they used to overcome their fear of hell to overcome their fear of all other things in creation. And like, but anyways, conventional ethics. So pre-conventional is, and then conventional. But I segue, I digress, I lose my train of thought, I remember what I was talking about, I come back to it. So like, conventional ethics is easiest to do. It's literally like the easiest ethics to do, because everyone goes, yeah, you're a good person, and if you don't believe this, fuck you, sort of thing. And like, do you know how hard it is to stand against the mob that doxes you, targets you, gets you fired, haunts you out your house, or hunts you down and like ruthlessly targets you, slanders you, libelous and stuff like that, and like threatens to kill you with bomb threats? And that's pretty common in America. If you actually watch the news, they say this almost every time, like someone gets doxxed or has like gone against the general mob, like the Karens or whatever they call them. I don't know all the names, like the people who had that gun defending their house against the mob, and like, or the George Zimmerman, who turned out to be exonerated because MSNBC asked him what color the man was, and the MSNBC edited out. Okay, George Zimmerman, who was asked by the 911 dispatch what color is he. He said he's black. After being asked what color he is, MSNBC edited that out, aired it, made him look like a racist, got the entire country in like furious at this dude. Barack Obama made a comment, if I had a son he'd look like Trayvon Martin, and then it turned out they'd edited it, and so he was found not guilty in a court of law. But like, the nation went crazy trying to kill this dude. Like, Black Panthers put $100,000 hit on him. Everyone was talking about going to kill him and shit like that. Like, that's what they do to every single fucking person who ever gets put on, like, I don't know, blast or the news or whatever you want to call it. Like, our entire country is filled with these sociopaths. 10% of our population is QAnon. That's 30 million Americans that are delusional, and like, they're violent and it's like that. And then it's not just them though. It's every community in our society now is ultra stupid and violent. Like, and we're reactionary and we're all conventional ethics, which, like, with the decaying economy, decaying education system, decaying political system, decaying news media, decaying, like, it's all in decay. And like, but like, I just find this funny, man. It's just epiphany. Like, if you are ever put on the news for anything that the mob decides to attack you for, you'll start getting death threats and bomb threats, and people start calling you, harassing you, like doxing you, and like, they'll get you fired from your job, they'll get you isolated from other people. It's common in America. It happens almost every day. Someone gets put on the news. Like, look it up. Every day. Like, and like, the internet gives you a funny name, like Karen or whatever, and like, and then you're just destroyed as a human being. That's conventional ethics. It's the herd mentality, social contract gone to the extreme, combined with like an oppressive superego, and like Carl Jung talks about how like the shadow of society, when suppressed, projects itself onto an outward person or group, like the Nazis did with the Jews, and like, and then they try to destroy that shadow by destroying this group, and in reality they're just fulfilling the shadow by denying that there's evil within them. So anyways, good and evil, black is evil, things that should not be done, and they exist, I agree. Like, there's things that should not be done. I think it's debated eternally about what evil is and what good is, and good, though, is the realm of white that no man can attain to. Like, you can't be good. Like, you try, but you just don't. You're not. Only God is good. And like, so it's a realm that we can't even enter. Like, we can't even become to be this white realm. And like, so like, But here's my belief system. It's that all we are is neural networks, or like kinetic spatial information architecture, which are neurons in a neural network that have various configurations of circuitry and stuff like that. And we have cybernetic feedback systems, Bayesian field weightings and whatnot, like statistics trees, choice logic, feedback mechanisms. And we have free will, like I think we do. We seem to. But like, the reality is that you could get a spike through the fucking skull working on a railroad and become the meanest man who has ever existed without choosing to become that. Like, just simply damaging a part of your frontal lobe with a lobotomy, accidental or intentionally or whatever, can change your personality to the point you become like a serial killer or whatever. Like, you know, like there's this case study, a dude was the greatest guy in the world, worked on a railroad, took a spike through his head, they pulled it out, he became the most vile, vicious person to have ever existed in that area or whatever. And like, so what that means is that people aren't good or evil. Like, you don't choose to get a railroad spike through your head and become a monster. It just kind of happens. So like, we need to view people past this belief that they themselves are choosing to be good or evil. You can only work with the thoughts you have and the brain you have. And like, so far we haven't figured out how to additionally splice on new neurons or augment on new neurons. It's coming in the future, but so is replication of 3D minds, or like three-dimensional images, scans of like molecular modeling of your brain and whatnot. It's like 20 years away, if that. Like, but like, so what I'm saying is that like all we are is information systems running with sentient free will, with a cybernetic feedback system on kinetic spatial reality neurons, which is cool. It makes it sentient and conscious. It's cool. But like, so we're not, evil exists, things that should not be done exist, but people themselves aren't evil. No matter what they do, it's a result of their brain chemistry and their brain structures and the limited thoughts they have, the lack of education, the lack of like knowledge, the lack of happiness from their childhood, abuse in their childhood, which propagates itself, so, but then people aren't good either. No one is good. Like, it's the realm of God. You can't be good. It's just, it's not possible. Like, same reason it's not possible for a person to be evil. And like, what this means though is that you've split essentially good and evil in between these two contrasts, which man doesn't exist in either of them. He can do evil, but he himself is not evil. He's simply an information architecture. He can't do good because only God is good. So he's left in this suddenly spliced, or like suddenly, like, it's like if you were suddenly to pull apart these two sides and pull them infinitely to both sides, man is now trapped in this in-between. And this in-between is like a gray scaling. And like, reality though is that if you can't do good and you can't do evil, man himself can do neither good nor evil. He's an in-between being. Like, he knows what is right, he still does wrong, or he doesn't know what is right, and he tries to do good. And like, the reality is that, like, that's reality. Like, we don't have the ability to do good or evil, or like, we don't have the ability to be good or evil. And like, if we do evil, it's because of something missing in our information architecture, or some sort of trauma, or some sort of lack of understanding, or like fatigue, like neuronal fatigue. God doesn't feel fatigue, like, so he never fucking, he doesn't logic bomb his creation to try to coerce what's being said or change the narrative, mess with the language symbols as like real time to like give them new meaning. And like, the devil, I don't know, man, I don't know enough about him. He interests me a lot, mostly because I don't know, man, not that like he's the representation of evil, it's that, I don't know. Anyways, so you have this humanity which is in this gray area, and like, we'll never escape the gray area. You can go into black, and or like, you can do things from the black, but you're not actually evil yourself, and like, the actions are evil, but you're just neural networks, man, and like, you can't do good. So like, no matter what you do, you're not doing good or evil, because like, if man truly knew what he was doing was evil, had the experiences to comprehend it, educated to the point, then like, he would be good. Like, the only reason you can do evil is if you are good and you choose to do evil, like, if that makes sense. And like, what I mean by that is like, the only way you can truly be evil or do evil, even though evil exists and people do evil acts, is if you are in the white, comprehending completely all things, like an infinite, all-knowing, omnipotent being, and still you choose to do something evil. then it's like, then it's evil, I guess. But it's only because you have to have complete, infinite understanding of all things. And it's just the unknown unknown. Even God is subject to the unknown unknown. It's like there are things God doesn't know that he doesn't know. Like, otherwise, like, is there something that God himself could create or no? Is it possible that God is so great and all-powerful and all-knowing, omnipotent, that he knows there's something he doesn't know he doesn't know? How does he know there's not a God above him who created him with this blindness? How does he know there's not a God above that God? And on he reiterating endlessly, like, or like, how can God know that he knows everything? Like, or like, how can, it's endless questions. What is a question that if God thought would make him cease to be God? And if God can't, can God think of something that when he thinks of it, he ceases to be God? And if not, how is he all-powerful and all-knowing? If he can do anything, can he make himself not God? And like, the questions like this reiterate endlessly. God goes insane. Like, it's just, we can see it in the scripture. He's gone insane. But anyway, so you're in this gray area. You have like, and like, but it's like this gray area. These shadows of our society, or repressed collective shadow, gets pressed onto an individual or a group, gets ruthlessly targeted and destroyed, and like that's that's conventional ethics. The ability to just ruthlessly target and attack people, mindlessly, viciously, like foaming at the mouth for the purpose of getting approval from your community. Like the great holy crusaders now are these men who are targeting women, and with support of 2/3 of the women who think that these women, 1/3 of the women, are somehow the patriarch, hierarchy, Christian dominant that like is destroying their lives. It's just irrational. It's absurdism. It's surreal, really, like when you think about it. Like, anyways, so all of everything I just talked about, built up. It should be several different lines of logic, several concepts that I'm working on. But then you enter into the realm of post-conventional, or Nietzsche's Übermensch, or like Superman. I mean, Nietzsche's Superman is the post-conventional ethics in a world that was once Christian. And like, post-conventional ethics fucking sucks. Like, it's terrible. Like, one, you can only find it if you were completely ostracized from community. Like, if you remain in a community that's supportive of you, that has influence on you, it'll affect your belief systems and you'll remain conventional. And it also requires lots of constant contemplation. It requires your ability to like think against the grain, if that makes sense. Like, think against the common belief system. You have to go against your education as a child. You have to go against your super ego, or that voice in your head that tells you what's right or wrong, punitively or supportively or warningly, or like guilt complex or whatever. Like, and you have to completely be destroyed by society. Like, in order to truly be ostracized from society, you have to be the people, or you have to be a person who all society abhors. Because if they support you, you won't understand post-conventional ethics. And like, I guess Nietzsche believed that there'd be the ideal men, or a small community of people who supported the Übermensch or the Superman, and like this small community of people would understand his teachings and whatnot. But like, I have shingles now. They don't hurt that bad yet, but they're gonna in a while. It's gonna suck. Anyways, I just feel weird looking into these cameras at myself. So you have the post-conventional ethics. Essentially, society has failed. Society has destroyed everything that it once stood for, while hypocritically saying it still stands for it, by rejecting the individual. Once the individual knows that they will be rejected by society as soon as they speak out against the herd, and they still make that choice to be completely destroyed, like Louis C.K. Like, Louis C.K. is an interesting case study. Successful HBO TV show. Turns out he likes to masturbate in front of women. Neither here nor there. You know, like, sexual perversion, that's not really that perverted. I think anal's a little more perverted than that. Our society's kind of come to terms with that as a community. And, like, so, like, the voyeurism that it gets him off is, like, deep psychology. I don't know enough about him to really get into it. I could have theories. Did he manipulate his position of power to do it? You know, like, I don't know, man. I think that rape is wrong. I think that molestation of kids is wrong. Like, I think that shit's wrong. But, like, it's like the Andrew Cuomo thing. The dude has more pictures of him kissing kissing men than he does women. He kissed more men than women, and yet they think he's like this, like, he's not gay. So, like, clearly it's his culture and it's cultural relativism in the land of America, which is a melting pot, and we know this is cultural relativism, and yet no one challenges the narrative that's been created. Did the dude kill 15 million people sending COVID in a nursing home? Yeah. Did he write a book saying how awesome of a leadership he is halfway through the COVID virus? Yeah. But it probably wasn't a correct analysis to say that he was guilty of the sexual perversion of kissing women, which, you know, I understand women who are, like, under men who are in positions of power. Poor phrasing, but, like, I understand that being morally wrong, but, like, it's just the overwhelming evidence was that it's just his culture, and he's kissing more men than he is women. And, like, Louis C.K. probably abused his power as, like, a higher up in the social hierarchy dominance thing of, like, the art industry. But is it sexually perverted? What isn't sexually perverted about sex? Like, I'm a sadist personally, but not like a really strong one. Like, yeah, maybe not a sadist. That has a connotation which changes the pragmatic meaning of what I was trying to say. I'll choose a different semantic next time. But, anyways, so Louis C.K. gets called out by the Me Too movement for masturbating or something like that in front of women. And, like, unconsensually, of course. And, like, anyways, because he's a male, it has a different standard than if it had been a female forcibly masturbating in front of a man, which, you know, like, I think it depends on whether or not the man finds the woman hot, whether it be offensive. So he loses his show. He gets just targeted and destroyed by the community because he had become the out-group that we were projecting our collective shadow onto. And, like, he apologized profusely. I read a news article where he's like, I do not forgive myself. Fast forward to the current date, he went through a period of time where he's like, my career is over, my life's over, and shit like this. And, like, he realized that society would throw him away, essentially. And he realized that, like, it's over for him. It's the equivalent of, I don't know. Anyways, so, like, fast forward to right now, and, like, he has, like, his own circuit comedy tour. He's on the internet again. He's, like, and he's still reviled by by the majority of our society, I think, because, like, it's like George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman was asked what color the kid was. Then he said black. They edited the tapes. But, like, our society still hates him. Trayvon Martin still this black martyr. It had nothing to do with race. Like, but, like, Louis C.K. hated by a large community, but he has the ideal men, and he knows this. Like, he said on one of his tweets, he's like, dude, do whatever the fuck you want. Like, society will condemn you. A small majority of people will support you. Stay with those people. Louis C.K. is the model of Nietzsche's Übermensch. Like, literally, Louis C.K. is a Superman. Like, think about it. Like, he went against the cultural norms through his character, which is what the Übermensch is. It's not a man who chooses to go against the grain. It's a man who can't but go against the grain. And that's what makes it a tragedy. Like, we have this belief that, like, Superman is, like, this great cultural icon. That's not true. And like, the reality is that the majority of, like, of the mob, the herd, the conventional ethics, the mobocracy, or the belief that democracy is superior to all systems, even though it created Jim Crow and Reign of Terror, like, Louis C.K., due to his nature and his character, was ostracized from society, and he became a post-conventional ethicist. He is like, he has reasoned and rationalized more than than almost any other person I can think of off the top of my head about like society, his role in it, his place in it, how he is like his ethical system. And he came to the same realization that I think most post-conventional ethics believers do, which is that one, conventional ethics is hypocritical, I guess, maybe, but it depends on the society you're in. Anyways, conventional ethics is easy. It's easy to go along with the flow, to go with the mob, to persecute, to throw rocks or spit at the one being crucified by the society. It's much harder to, after carrying the cross forcibly by guards, to not denounce him, or to anyway, it's a Jesus reference. My point is that I don't have a point exactly. Hold on. I worked like a double today, so I'm a little tired, and it fucks with my train of thought. But, so Louis C.K., his character caused him to become ostracized by society. He tried to get back into the conventional ethics community. He apologized profusely. He says, I don't forgive myself, my life is over, blah, blah, blah. Then he went through the stages of grieving, depression, anger. Anytime something bad happens, you go through the stages of grieving. He went through them, and then he came to the epiphany that he had the ideal men, or a small subsect of community, that realized, that he was the Superman, that he's the Ubermensch, and they follow after him. And, he now has rationalized and is building a new culture that is completely distanced and separatist from the entire American, which is now America, or Americana, whatever you want to call it, the global hegemony cultural power that influences every community in the world, like the Barack Obama presidential posters in Africa. Why the fuck would those exist? Unless he's deliberately planning to take over the world. But anyways, Coca-Cola and Hollywood, rock and roll, globalism essentially, that is stemming from American art and business and government, as America slowly consolidates a hegemony, but it's losing it now because of bad choices. But anyways, Louis C.K. went against. Let's see it as a microcosm. The macrocosm is global hegemony of American metaculture. But Louis C.K., imagine it he's the Antichrist to the Me Too movement, which Ubermensch is the Antichrist of Christianity. It's clear. It's a character who, because of who he is as a person, by nature or nurture, cannot be a part of the conventional ethics despite his attempts to. And when he's when he's ostracized and separated from all of the Christian community, he tries to get back into it. He tries to submit. He tries all this stuff, and he can't do it. The Ubermensch, I guess I'm using my understandings of it, which are cliff notes. I have trouble reading, so I haven't read the full book. I saw the movie Fight Club, and I have my own theories about it. I guess I should probably be using, let's say it's Nietzsche fan fiction, or a Nietzsche pseudo, I'll use different terms if you guys are going to get super butthurt about keywords. But really, I'm just trying to explain that post-conventional ethics requires you to be ostracized completely from society, but there will be a subsect that follows after you've gone the path and you've trailblazed for them. And every community has the Ubermensch. It's not I'm using the Nietzschean terms again. I guess I should probably finish reading the entire book, but before jumping to conclusions. But I myself was ostracized from society because I was wrongly diagnosed schizophrenic. I became a hardcore Orthodox Christian. I'm just hard to get along with, really. There's a lot of reasons, but I'm hard to get along with. But anyway, so I tried to get back into society. I tried to submit. I tried to be a part of society and shit, and it just did not work well for me. And I was completely ostracized, leprosy sort of person, you know, like a leper on the edge of like society, a pariah, an antichrist, a villain, an evildoer, you know, and like the reality though is that this permitted me the ability to really contemplate things outside of our culture. If I'm going to be mocked, condemned, and ostracized either way, then I'm going to think about things in a way that others can't, because they're scared of what the consequences will be if they answer those questions, and even scared to ask those questions, because they're scared of the social, like being socially destroyed by community as part of the social contract of like a community that has repressed the Jungian collective shadow and puts it on any person who challenges the narrative of the hive mind, which is what we see in our modern society. Like we see grown men targeting women who are Christian or non-Christian, who are just 1/3 of the population, who believe that abortion shouldn't be legal in majority of cases. You know, like there's always caveats, but like, and this is supported by 2/3 of the women, like supposedly, who are like, yeah, let's sick these males, let's have these fucking male men attack women about abortion and fucking force them into believing something. Like, it's just stupid. It's not logical. But like, it's the collective shadow being forced onto another community, and somehow religion got into our politics, which it'll always be. Like, we're a nation built on religious freedom that's also a democracy. So you can't say, well, there's no religion in our politics. There's religion in our people. Our people are our politics. You can't divide the two. The difference is you can't use the state and government to force religion or a religion onto any group. That's what the Constitution is about. And if we say fuck the Constitution, like, it's the most well thought out government that's ever existed so far, I guess. It's in decay because we're running a democracy on a republic model. And that is like, that's the effects we're seeing right now. It was started as a limited democratic constitutional republic with all that entails, and then over time, through modulations, we created a democracy, but it's still running on a republic. So we have a democracy that's full, running on a republic that's corrupted economically, has socialist Federal Reserve like mechanisms in it, Keynesian economics, globalism, corruption, political party campaigns, like union collapse. There's a myriad of like reasons why our nation's about to collapse or in decay. Who knows how long it'll last? Rome lasted 400 years after it collapsed into a tyranny. 36 tyrants or 33 tyrants or whatever, Nero and shit. But anyways, let's see where I segued from. Hold on. Anyways, so yeah, the Constitution is kind of a good thing. Should the court? Why didn't you codify it right after the court made a decision on it over the last like 60 or 40 fucking years? Like, because you were riding on that like illicit judgment. Like, the court shouldn't have been able to put a judgment on it anyways, but you rode with it because it was in your favor. Now it's not in your favor. Suddenly the court can't make that decision. You can't say the court, if it agrees with us, is valid. If it disagrees with us, is not valid. It's like saying democracy wins only when our political party wins. Like, that's not fucking democracy. Anyways, so for like the past 4 years since I got arrested, 5 years, it's been like 5 years, I was tortured in isolation, psychologically, mentally, emotionally. You know, like, it's a long story. You won't believe most of it, so I'm just not going to bother with it today. But anyways, like, I started to feel really hateful towards society, because it was like, fuck you guys. Like, fuck you for letting this happen. You know, like, you're the fucking adults. Make good decisions regarding us when we're kids. And I'm not talking about my parents. I'm talking about the entire community that was, like, involved with, like, everything. You know, like, just fuck you guys. This is how I felt. And, like, I think it was valid. I think it's justified. I think the Ash conformity experiment hides reality from everyone. Like, Kitty Giovanis is a good example of when like society fails an individual because so many people are a part of it that no one cares to do anything about it. And like, anyways, not to get into deep about what occurred, because we'll discuss that in hell. But I started to contemplate ethics without this superego, without society's social contract. I started to really contemplate all of it. And like, whether I've come to terms with what I believe yet, I don't think I have. I'm still rationalizing. I'm not part of the herd. I can't be. Like, I interact with members of the herd who usually echo mimicry, but like biomimicry or underhanded comments or logic bombs or whatever. That's the herd. And then every now and then I find an ideal man, like somebody who's like not sure yet, but they can still talk as if I exist. Like, when you logic bomb someone, when you degrade them by insulting them with, well, you're pretending to be friendly with them, that's the mob. That's like, oh, I'm getting social points for doing horrible things to people. Like, and like, it's like the Romans who got praised for crucifying Christians, or later the Christians who got praised for crucifying non-Christians, or later the non-Christians who got praised for crucifying Christians, or later, you know, like, culture changes, belief systems change, ideologies and shit, they mutate. But anyways, so like, as I reasoned and I rationalized, what I discovered is that I started in a place of hurt and anger that made me just horrid, like, it was horrid to be in my head. And it still is pretty horrid. Like, it's just something you learn to cope with. But like, anyways, I started to realize that like the ethical belief systems that we have aren't correct. They're Christian based, or like they're just based in these rationalizations that no one challenged for a very long time. And I don't think I have the answers to them, but I see some of the points that are being made in my head. Like I said, I've studied this before and I've explained this before, but like, love and good, or morality and love are not the same thing at all. Love and evil are not antonyms. Love and hate is different than good and evil, right and wrong. And the belief that has merged all these concepts into a single dichotomy that involves ethics and emotions and like actions and shit, it's not correct. So like, the analogy I use to throw away 2,000 years of Christian teaching is that if you have somebody you love who has done something horrible and you want them to not be punished for it because you love them, then you want injustice to exist for that which is loved because of love. Or let's say a loved one asks you to do something, like, I don't know, like just something evil, and like that you willingly do it because you love the person. Love condones evil for that which is loved. Therefore, antonym love and evil can exist both positive in the same statement, which means they're not antonyms. Otherwise, it would negate like spatial syntax, semantic logic, or whatever, you know. Like, and what that means though is that love and evil aren't different things. Like, or at least they're different things, but they're not antonyms of each other. They're not dichotomy. They're not opposites on a spectrum. And so that throws away all of Christian teaching, just that simple understanding. So like, I'm hungry. What this means is that it explains why hell exists. God loves those he saved. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I gotta rationalize that one some more. But like, what this means though is that like, morality is the difference between good and evil. But if evil can be done in the name of that which is loved, and so can good, then love and morality are not the same thing. And so that means like this separates Christian teaching, like, completely. Like, Christian teaching has been 2,000 years of rationalization of ethics and morality and, like, obedience to God, which is to love your fellow man. If you believe the lawyer who asked the two questions, or ask the lawyer who asked the question, what are the greatest commandments? Obey God, which is to do what God says, and the second commandment is to love each other as you love yourself. So it's just one commandment, essentially. Obedience to God through loving others as you love yourself. And, like, what about, I guess this is like a caveat apologist question of, like, what about the people who hate themselves? Can they do whatever they want? But, like, all of this hour-long monologue, I guess, which was just to calm me down after work, is that love and evil are not antonyms. You can do evil for that which is loved, and it is still love, and it is still evil. So we have to break free from our societal belief system now that says, one, that love is like the basis for our society. Like, that's stupid now that we've realized, it permits evil for that which is loved. Like, and sorry, I was looking at my eyes. I hate my eyes. Anyways, like, now that we've realized as this entire community that love permits evil, we can't base our society on it. It has to be something else. Like, love will conquer all, and then what happens? Love tortures everyone it conquered for that which it loves, or whatever. Like it's a moral collapse of 2,000 years of teachings. It's the beginning for a new philosophy, a new understanding of ethics, a new understanding of love, and I think our society needs it immediately, because this foundation we've built that we call love is permitting evil. Those 2/3 of women who support the attacks on 1/3 of the women by the men population who are part of the conventional herd of the 2/3 that are pro-choice, that's evil. But they condone it for a lot of reasons, but the belief is that they're choosing to let women have their bodily choice, which I'm not debating whether it is or not right or wrong. They let women have these choices, or they let... I lost my train of thought. I got logic bombed. Okay, so they let this evil exist because they love the belief that women should have free will and choice, which I agree, but they're grown men targeting women with hate speech and vitriol and harassment, and they're saying it's for feminism, and that 1/3 of the women don't count because they're just a sub-minority that are Christian who are under the rule of male dominant men. And what do we do then as a society when we realize we just built our entire foundation on something that condones evil? Under the belief that we'd be ridding ourselves of all evil if we just spread love, without clearly defining what it is, delineating it from the various types of love, eros, philomene, agape, erotic, that's eros, but so what are we to do? I don't have the answer yet. I had this epiphany while I was being sadistically targeted, in my head at least, by the society that once said it would love me, or whatever. What do we do when we can't build the foundation of our entire civilization on the term love because it permits evil, and we were building it on love to eliminate evil, but now that the Christian narrative of what good and evil and love and hate and right and wrong and morality are has been defeated by a simple argument, what do we base our society on? Originally we were founded on liberty, and liberty requires restraint at times, common sense, less laws, more tolerance, I guess. But I advocate personally for love, liberty, and reason in balance. But I don't know. I'd like to know your thoughts. I'm sorry for how long this video is and how many times I segue and shit, but I'm losing my train of thought while I talk. Anyways, have a good night.